Hi, this is Steve Hargadon. Welcome to the Future of Education. This is a special show on Google Plus communities. However, I think the conversation will end up extending into other community platforms, but we're going to start with Google Plus, especially kind of drilling down on that functionality and talking about the big picture of what Thanks to Mighty Bell and Blackboard Collaborate for sponsorship of the show. Full disclosure is that I do consulting work for Mighty Bell, and they're likely to come up tonight, but the show is not about Mighty Bell. Our worldwide virtual conferences, for those of you who aren't familiar, are free. They are held all year long. We have about 100,000 attendee logins each year. We've got lots coming up. Go to any of the networks, futureofeducation.com or Classroom20, and you'll find information about these conferences, or you can go to web20labs.com. But lots of fun coming up this year. Coming up on the interview series, the Future of Education interview series, on the 17th, we're going to do a show on student journalism. Then on the 29th on Deming, Edwards Deming, the total quality guru, and the relationship between Deming's work and how we treat teachers and our use of data and statistics. Then on the 31st, we're going to talk about economic inequality. Carol Black comes back, lots of fun there. Added to this list, if you're keeping track, is Richard Millington, down there without a space before the and, but he is the author of a book called Buzzing Communities, and we're going to talk about community management in some depth when he comes on the show. If you've missed any shows, they are all in full recorded versions, both at Blackboard Collaborate and MP3. David Risher was on last night talking about World Reader, the nonprofit organization providing books to e-books to children in Africa. And this is a chance now for you to tell us where you're participating from. If this is your first time, you want to look to the left of the map. You're looking for the star icon. You click on it and then click twice, and then place that star on the map and give a shout out and let us know where in the world you're listening from. I'm imagining we may have some folks here who are not regular attendees of the show, especially because I posted this in a Google Plus community for top community moderators, or for moderators of communities with large numbers. Interested if anybody's here from that. So, lovely. Hawaii, South America, Australia, I'm guessing Japan. There you are, Okinawa. Terrific. Wherever you're listening from, or if you are listening to the recording, we're sure glad that you have taken the time. Now, what I want to do is, before I want to get started talking about Google Plus specifically, and what I'd like to do is I'm going to create a blank page here. And if you have a Google Plus community, to the left of the whiteboard where you clicked on that star icon, you'll now see 4 icons down. It's the letter A with some lines. Click on that. If you click it correctly, it will actually expand. And you can click on the straight A, just the A without the lines, and then put the name of that Google Plus community on the page here somewhere. So I'm going to put Education Revolution, since that's the site I started, the community I started. So to the left of the whiteboard, you'll see some icons. You're looking for the 4th one down. It's a letter A with some lines across, and you want to click on that. It should open up and give you another icon that's just the letter A, and that will let you type on the screen. Now, unless I'm missing something, there's no easy way to refer to those communities except by the full URL. If anybody knows an easier way, that might be one of the first things we put on our list of concerns, not concerns, but wish list for Google, but is anybody aware of an easier way to, because I would encourage you to put the links up here, but I don't think you're going to have to go to a browser, open your community. I think easier will be for people to search for the community based on the name. Carol has put a link in the chat. Now, I do want to really drill down on Google Plus as we start. But if you, let's do this. I'm going to actually move some of these. If you add some more for Google Plus, let's put them up toward the top, if you don't mind. And I'm going to move some of these up here so they're higher on the screen. And if you would, if you've created a community in another platform, let's put that lower on the screen. So I'm thinking of Ning or Mighty Bell or Learnist or Pinterest. I mean, of course, there are nuanced differences, in some cases significant differences between those platforms. But if you've created a community in which other people, your peers, are participating, I'd love to have you put that in the lower part of the whiteboard. There's a Ning network, Learn Local Network. rmiller.ning.com. Certainly I've got Classroom 2.0 and several others. I'll just put Classroom 2.0 down there to have it on the space. And the Mighty Bell network I started that got the most signups was called Resumes Are Dead. Is there anybody who's wanted to put something up on the board and hasn't figured out how to do it yet? Feel free to put a note in the chat. We can put it up for you. So Australia series, Education Revolution, a Google Apps for Education. That seems recursively brilliant, right? MOOC, Education in San Antonio, Semble.net, Open Source Learning, Education Policy and Research. Yeah, I can, Carol, if you want to email me, I'll send you that link. I don't want to look it up right now, but yes, I do, and I can find it later. Or you could probably do a search on Mighty Bell Resumes Are Dead, and I think it will pull up. That has about 1,000 members. So part of what's intriguing to me is how fast the Google Plus communities can grow. And for those of you who participated in the first few days, we're used. I'm going to. Anybody can put a note in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand. To raise your hand, that's the third icon over in that participant window. If you want to make a comment about it. But it felt to me like, a significant advantage to the Google Plus communities was that it was Google, right? So all of a sudden, it was so easy and so fast to create the communities and people join them. Which isn't to say that there aren't some frustrations with the way that those are organized, but certainly in terms of finding people and inviting them, that was very fast. So let's do this. Let's kind of move on to that discussion, and I'm going to create a new page here. And I'm going to title this, the benefits of Google Communities. Plus Communities. And feel free to just, again, put your notes underneath that. I'll bold that so it looks like a title. Maybe make the type a little larger. But I will then myself put in that fast startup. Maybe easy as well. So in terms of, if I'm thinking about the incredible opportunity here for peer communities that I think Google Plus has provided, part of it is that it's so fast to set them up, and it is so tied in with Google, and so many people are tied in with Google, that it felt like those communities were able to ramp up very quickly. And it took the Ning to start a Ning network is a fair amount of work, way easier than it would have been 5 years ago, right? But if if a Ning network takes an hour for somebody who's talented to start, Google Plus Community can be started in a matter of minutes. And that seems to me to have huge ramifications for peer-to-peer learning, especially in education, that an educator could start a community very quickly, get 10 or 15 people together, and be holding a conversation. Anybody want to raise their hand and take the microphone and talk about that? Or what about Hangouts? Is anybody using Google Hangouts? Okay, Dick, I'm going to give you the mic. You just click on that talk button at the top left if you'd like to. And you're on an iPad, I think, so we'll see how that goes.
I hope I'm coming across.
You are.
Head of a math department. I'm the head of a math department at a private school, and in the winter I like to try to run my department meetings through Hangouts so people don't have to leave their homes and travel in the cold. And that's been working out pretty cool.
That's terrific. So a Hangout has a limitation of, is it 10 users still?
10, maybe 15. I try to get people to double up so that it works.
Gotcha. So yeah, I love that. And the reason I didn't hold this meeting in a Google Hangout is that, number one, I'm very familiar with Blackboard Collaborate, having previously worked for them, but also because I knew that we could have more participation, especially the chat, than we would have had in a Google Hangout. And I'm willing to have somebody argue with me if they feel like a Google Hangout would have been a better environment for this, because I'd love to learn how that works. Okay. Somebody mentioned using Google Plus. That's up there, and I thought that's interesting because the communities have this kind of nifty correlation with the Twitter-like functionality of microblogging. And yeah, Linda says there's chat and Hangouts, but it's limited to those people who are actually in the Hangout, right? So we've got 32 people here. We could not have allowed everyone to chat. And maybe somebody knows how to get around that or uses another way to do it. Okay, Google Contacts to build a community quickly. That was really interesting for me because my circles were too large to actually invite my circles into my Google Plus community. Did anybody else have that same issue? Go ahead, Carol.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for that. I don't think the number of people in my circles would come anywhere near the numbers of yours, so I didn't have that problem. But I did find it very useful knowing that my contacts were already there and I could build that little community up really quickly. And I really like the fact that it gives you the ability to use some sub-pages in there, like I see you've done in the one that we're in right now. And I've started to do that for mine as well.
So those are the categories, right? And I am interested if people are actually using those. One of my huge drawbacks to Google Plus Communities is for all of this sort of rapid growth and engaged conversation. And I'm having great, the truth is I'm having great conversations in Google Plus Communities. I'm just going to put that in because it's so huge. But for all of those great conversations, I have a really hard time finding previous posts. And I'm also discouraged that popular conversations don't somehow float to the top. Is anybody else experiencing the same frustration? So let's put that down. So for me, one of the drawbacks is conversations, popular conversations don't surface. And I'm also going to put down that it's hard to find conversations. And is anybody, yeah, threading and ranking. So that's great. Lack of threading and ranking. Well, there is threading in the conversations, but I will often want to see an individual's other contributions, and not necessarily do I want to drill down, but I want them somehow to surface automatically for me. So if I'm looking at a comment that Doug has made in a community, I would kind of want to see what her other comments have been, so if I get attracted to something else she's talking about, I can find those conversations. I'm going to put that down as no surfacing of other conversations by, or contributions, let's say, an individual. Okay, other benefits or drawbacks that you've seen so far. I do want to get into best practices, so we'll move to that relatively soon, and people can give it ideas about what they're doing. But are there other benefits or drawbacks that you've posted that I haven't noted? Simple, unintimidating format. Oh, I'm going to put down for benefit incredible integration with Android phones. Now, is that true for iPhones as well? And Coach Carol saying Google Groups allowed you to post, create a sticky post at the top. That would be a nice feature. Okay, someone's typing ability to upload documents, resources, not just links. I haven't done that yet. Would you like to take the mic and tell us how you do that? Wherever you are posting there.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Great. Hi, my name is Jill. I work with a math nonprofit, and I'm hoping to use this tool as a way to bring together teachers who use our resource. And so something that I've seen be really promising is the fact that you can upload PDF files, you can upload PowerPoints, that kind of thing. And it works really well. And so I haven't seen that in a lot of other communities. You can post links to places where they're stored elsewhere, but not directly uploading it to the community.
So that's actually a functionality that's available now, because I've just missed it. Is it something you're doing currently, uploading a PDF? Is somebody else maybe as well? And Jill, I lost you. You have to turn your mic back on if you were going to answer.
I did do it recently. I'm trying to look now for an example that I could share.
No, that's great. And I'm interested in, if you upload a PDF or a PowerPoint, does it provide you with the nice graphic image that's sort of a preview? Jenny says, pity you can't get email to saying someone has posted in communities if you have many email accounts. So I'm not sure what you mean there, Jenny, but feel free to grab the mic and let us know, because I'm getting emails when I'm from the community, but maybe that's because I'm the creator. If I've commented on a thread in another community, I think I get an email as well, right? Okay, so you have multiple email accounts, and so Jenna, are you saying that it is going to one of those addresses, but you wish it could go to multiple addresses? Got it. Good, I understand that. Is anybody using any Chrome extensions or Firefox extensions that have helped with their experience with Google Plus communities? And if you are, feel free to just put it in the chat or grab the microphone. To turn your microphone on, you just click on that talk button at the top left. Okay, so I'm going to leave the screen up just for a second more in case anybody wants to mention anything else. So Google credentials gave you confidence, ability to connect locally and internationally, easy to register with Google. it's not likely that somebody would attend the session who was not a big Google user, but is there anybody here who found that to actually be a hurdle that you had to be a part of the Google family? Provides other useful tools, events, subpages. I haven't done an event in Google Plus communities yet. Yeah, someone else said works well on Android phones. Google Contacts, Hangouts, quickly invite to circles, great integration with the Google products. Yeah, okay. And search, somebody said on the drawbacks, search function not that great, considering it's Google. And some screen configuration issues on iPads. I'm interested that for me, the use of Google Communities has drawn me into the use of Google Plus more. So I'm actually looking at the regular postings in Google Plus in a way that I hadn't previously, in a way that maybe most people would use Twitter. But Google Plus Communities has drawn me back into Google Plus. Okay, we can come back to this page if anybody wants to at some point, but I do want to kind of move on here a little bit. And I want to talk about ideas that you have tried or benefits that you think there are going to be to this rapid ability to create communities. So I'll create another new page here. And I'm going to title it Google Plus Communities in Education. And we had, who was it there that mentioned holding staff meetings? Yeah, that was you, Dick. So, Dick, if you don't mind, do you want to put that up there? Do you know how to add something to this page? Go ahead and type that in. Sort of quick staff meetings makes a ton of sense. Anybody using it in peer-to-peer teacher learning? Has anybody created a new community that didn't exist before? Oh, understood, Dick. Okay, I'll put it in for you here. So, staff, faculty meetings. Is there anybody using it for a peer-to-peer teacher community that didn't exist before in some other form, or using it with students in some way? I'm not a Google Apps for Education user, so are Google Plus communities available for Google Apps for Education? A Moodle users group for meeting notifications. Cool. Jeannie says, intend to use it this semester for teacher-to-peer college tutoring for Bible translation programs. Fascinating. They just opened up Google Plus for Google Apps for Ed. Hoping to launch a district-wide peer-to-peer teacher resource site soon. And I'm assuming that you could have done these things in other platforms, but is there something about the Google Plus communities that made that more attractive or easier to do? Carol, go ahead and take the mic. While you do so, we'll draw attention to Linda's question. How does this work with firewalls that districts place on school computers? And if anybody has an answer to that, feel free to put it in the chat.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, just a little example that we have for you was the development of this Melbourne Moodle user group in a Google Plus community. And it grew from, I think, 7 to about 47 within 1 week. And I think the novelty of having a Google community really resonated for our users, and we're continuing now to grow and build on that. So I think the speed of developing a community was our advantage.
Speed, yeah, I mean, I haven't built dozens of Ning networks. It's pretty amazing how fast the Google Plus community is built. Now, you know, if I'm making a call between a Google Plus community and a Ning network, I'm looking at a variety of factors, right? One is the time involved in putting it in. One is the ease of signing up. My hunch right now is people are going to be more likely to sign on to a Google Plus community than go through the work of signing up for a Ning community. My sense is that Google Plus community takes very little time, but some of the kind of long-term benefits of a Ning community, the stability, the organizational structure, aren't there with Google Plus. And as a community creator in Ning, I have some kind of long-term ownership or control. I'm going to go back to our slide on benefits and drawbacks. I'm going to put in here sort of lack of ownership or control. Now, that must sound funny talking about Ning, since Ning changed their terms of service and did all kinds of funky things. But I certainly feel like I have more control and ownership in a Ning network that allows me to build something that couldn't go away tomorrow as easily as a Google Plus community could, especially because Google doesn't have a great history of with social projects. I'm thinking of Wave here, right? And the other thing a Ning network lets me do is it lets me email. And so you don't really have that in the Google Plus community. Okay, so any other sort of ideas for things that you could do in education? I'm thinking of classes. I'll write this in here. So it's a quick class networks. And I'd be interested if anybody would want to compare this with Edmodo. And I'm also thinking of book groups. Book groups or limited study groups. I mean, I'm probably giving away the ending of the story here, but I think this is monumental. I think the ability to create a community or network quickly is just amazing, and I think it's going to be hugely beneficial to education. I just wish there were certain things going on with Google Plus communities right now that aren't.
Hi, this is Marianne, and I'd like to share how I want to use Google Plus this next summer. I'm at a university.
Awesome.
And I'm at a university, and we have a research conference. And at that research conference, we have, well, we do a lot online, and so we have invited poster sessions from all over the world. And what we want to do is to have students, whether they're in Korea or China or South America, present their poster and have other students who are attending the conference be able to interact with them in how they did their research. So that's my purpose of being here tonight.
Terrific. Love it. Okay, so knowing that at some point I want to kind of shift over to maybe some more general principles about communities that aren't necessarily Google Plus ones and do some comparisons with other tools, I am interested right now in those of you who are using Google Plus communities, if you feel like you've done some things that are really worth sharing. The Education Revolution community that I started got up to is over 2,000 users right now. And I think in part, some of the growth of that has come from being very diligent about removing posts that are off topic. So I'm going to put that in as one of my best practices, which is the quick removal of off-topic posts. And I think that can be hard if you haven't run a community before. You are nervous about deleting a post. And Google gives you a couple of ways to do it. If you're on your phone, you have to indicate that it's abuse, and so that it will go away. There are some that Google flags, and you can't actually delete them from your phone. You have to go on the computer, but they don't appear because Google's flagged them, so they don't appear in the stream. But my sense is that when somebody comes to look at a community, they look at what's in the existing stream, and if there's junk there, then they're not as likely to join. Maybe somebody would like to agree or disagree with that, but for me that's been one of the things I've been consciously aware of, is to quickly remove off-topic posts. Now, so it's not just spam for me, but it's also keeping a tight focus. Right? So one of the things that I've noticed about Google Plus communities is that the more tightly focused they are, the more likely I am to join. And even though I have interest in a lot of topics, I'm choosing to only join the ones that I really care about. And this has been fun for me. So I'm kind of ignoring some things that I don't care about. I know those conversations are taking place. I know they're valuable. But like in the Education Revolution community, I'm trying to keep a really tight focus so that it's not ed tech. And I'll say to somebody, if they put an ed tech posting in, I'll say, that's really better for ed tech. Now there's some ed tech that's related to major shifts in education, but if it's not related, then I'll tell them to post it somewhere else. And I'm trying, okay, so I'm going to put another one in here, and please feel free to add if anybody has one, and just type it on the screen or put it in the chat. I'm trying to respond to a significant number of posts. I'm going to put down here, respond to posts as the community creator. Right, so I think that my sense is that people are often posting for the first time, and that they appreciate some of the affirmation of somebody responding to them. And so I am trying to do that. Other best practices that you're evolving. Has anybody banned anybody yet? I haven't banned anyone yet. I've just removed their posts. Well, the only way that I could respond as much as I am, having done this community work for 5 years now, is to have created a community that where I really care about the conversation. And so that's kept me going. If I didn't really care, I wouldn't be building it just to be the guy who built a community. I have to really care. Virginia says, keep it fresh. Try to post 2 or 3 times per week. I'm posting once or twice a day. Is that too much? But see, the thing is, I know what the topic is, and I'm using that as an opportunity to keep that focus. Keep conversation posts short. Yep. I noticed that the conversation posts are often quite long, which to me is fascinating because it is hard. They aren't really threaded, right? You're right, they're not threaded within the post, the responses, and so having those long posts is interesting. I do like posting links to blog posts or news articles. I think that has been really useful because I'm enjoying seeing other people's posts of those same things. Viviana wants to know if anybody's actually tried to use it with students. Use the post to point out or link out to other places where longer conversations are happening. I like that a lot. That's one thing that's often hard for new community creators, is to be willing to link out when you want to keep. Sometimes you want to keep conversation in the place where you created it, but I think it ultimately benefits you to have the, to push out to other places. Allison says she's just about to start a community with students. Barb says, I stopped checking if there's no change over a week or so. I just loaded a Chrome extension that lets me very quickly see all of the activity and all of the communities I've joined. I I can't remember what it's called, but let me see if I can pull it up here and tell you. It's called Google Plus Communities Notifications. Oh, it's so funny. I didn't put Edmodo or Facebook logos on that one page, did I? And they both should be a part of this conversation. Library community there as well. Well, that's why this is partly why I'm so excited to have Richard Millington come on the show, the author of that book, Buzzing Communities, because I think increasingly there are going to be more and more of us who are creating small communities for this peer learning, and the skills of community building are becoming increasingly valuable in a more widespread way. Yeah, I don't know if it's only for Chrome, but I happen to be a Chrome user, so that's why I know that it's available for Chrome. Good. Any other thoughts about best practices, things you've seen that you really like, things that other people are doing or that you are doing within a community that's making a difference? I'm not using categories well. If anybody has a suggestion as to how to do that, I'm just posting everything in the main discussion category. Is anybody liking the categories and seeing that have an impact on their usability of a network, and so would like to make a comment about it? Go ahead, Carol.
Steve, I'm thinking that distracting from the main conversation is not a good thing to do. We found that in our Ning network, and some of the groupings that you can do in there were not to our advantage. But in the Google Plus community, I see an advantage on having those separate categories where you can park more extensive or in-depth or whatever you want to do. So it's a way of not distracting, but collating and collecting.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of a tension there, right? A productive tension. If you're keeping a tight focus in your community, then you probably don't need the categories as much. If your community has a broader focus, then the categories might become critical. But I have a suspicion, and I'm often wrong about these things, but I have a suspicion that categories is really good in theory, but it's not going to be as used as as the group function in Nings or the different topic discussion. Well, see, I don't even use the categories that much in Ning networks unless it's for conference threads, when I build a Ning network for a virtual conference. Okay, so we can come back again to this page or to any of these pages. For those of you who've joined since, we have a page that shows different communities that people have created, the benefits of Google Plus communities and the drawbacks. And we have Google communities in education ideas, and then we have these best practices. What I want to do now is I want to create a new page here, and I want to list the different networks, the platforms you're using for learning communities. And the reason I want to do this is if I'm right about the sort of incredible potential here for peer learning communities, and we have lots of platforms, I'd like to list them all on this page and then have a little bit of a discussion about what you like or don't like about each one. And I'll start us off here by putting up, so we'll put up Google Plus communities. And I'll put up Ning and Pinterest and Learnist. Oops, would help if I spelled that right. And Mighty Bell. Let me go back and correct that. Learnist. Am I going to be able to do it? And Edmodo, and Facebook, and And what else? Okay, I'm going to see if I can make these larger. And then move them around the screen. So Google Plus communities, Ning, Pinterest, Learnist, Edmodo, Facebook, Mighty Bell, Twitter. I should add Twitter here. Okay, LinkedIn, all good. Okay. And Yammer. Yeah, I haven't used Yammer in a while. So Jenny's saying Blogspot. So tell me how you would use Blogspot for a community, Jenny, because I would think of that as a blogging platform. PBWiki. And PBWiki, I haven't used enough to know. Has that shifted toward more of community kinds of stuff? And Wikispaces. See, I don't find I love Wikispaces, but I don't find Wikispaces great for community building, but I'd love to be challenged on that. So let's do this. Oh, ClassJump. I don't know ClassJump. What is ClassJump? Okay, WordPress, WebPaint. So these are good. These are ones I wouldn't have thought of because I wouldn't have thought of them being community building. We got ClassJump, WebPaint, Tumblr. Yes. Okay, so Tumblr and Twitter. I think I had Twitter up there. What about Plurk? Tumblr, Plurk. So Weebly, again, I love Weebly, but does it have good community tools? I think there is with Weebly, there is a forum conversation piece, right? The person who put ClassJump up, if you're interested in telling us about it, we'd love to have you take the mic. I'm going to move these a little here. Yeah, I'm a huge Weebly fan, huge. But I don't think I would ever use Weebly to build a community. And now maybe it's not fair that I'm using the word community without fully defining it. But I would say the community is the peer contribution network that allows for rich conversation. And that's just off the top of my head. I'm not sure that's a good description. Okay, so Annette says a wiki space with discussion threads to share information and best practices. So Annette, did they use so for each wiki space page, right? There's a shadow page that allows for conversation, and is that the functionality that was used for the conversation piece? Moodle. Yes. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So that makes sense to me. So Wikispaces wouldn't have been my first choice, but I can see that certainly they have the functionality built into it. So Moodle definitely belongs on this list. So would Drupal, right? And what's the open source program that's specifically for community building? I'm drawing a blank, but I should know it, right? There's an open source program specifically geared toward building social communities. Barb says, can you use it by giving contributors the password? They love the professional finish. So I'm wondering what you're talking about there, Barb. Oh, Weebly. And Weebly actually allows you to have multiple contributors, if that's what you're talking about. You know, now part of one of the new features I love about Weebly is the multiple, you can have multiple editors. But I think Weebly actually has a forum discussion element you can bring in. Mahara groups. Oh, okay, that's really good to know. Okay, so let's play a little game here, right? And the game would be that there are reasons why you would use one tool over others, right? So this is a lot of text on this page, so I'm not sure quite how to do this, but let's go through these one by one, and I'll do the typing. But we've talked about the Google Plus communities. When would you use these other communities? When are you using them that you feel they do something special that the other platforms don't do? And what I'm interested in here is, what are the functionalities that we want for community software and education? You know, what do we really love? So let's talk about Ning. What do you really love about Ning? So who's using Ning? And feel free to grab the mic, or just tell us what you like. And I'm gonna put notes in and try and type while you're talking. And feel free to just take the mic there, Carol.
Okay. We've been using the Ning product for our Learn Local community now for about 5 years. And although it's smaller in number than others that I've seen, I think there's a lot of advantage in giving long life to a growing group. And we find that people come in and out of community learning in varying roles, and so we get new members happening all the time. It gives us consistency now for our networking, and we recently did a big overhaul on the look and feel of Ning, and that's one of its big pluses on my card, is that you can change almost everything in the way it looks inside a Ning, and that really gives it a fresh look if you're looking into a new year.
Good, I love that. And I'm trying to add Scoop It here in the right size font. Don't worry, I'll get it. I've assumed a spelling thing there that may or may not be true, but other thoughts on Ning? Carol mentioned so the ability to change appearance or control of appearance. I'm going to put down here, Carol. Is that a fair assessment of what you said?
Yeah, definitely. You know, you've got all the tools that you can change in the background as an administrator. And the other thing with that is you can do it as a team. You can share that management.
Okay, so then I'll put shared management as well. Yeah, and it's so funny for me to be categorizing Ning as something that you have more stability or ownership with, given when they made their shift to the pay model, a lot of us lost the networks that we had created. But it does feel like that's a benefit of Ning. And threaded discussions, maybe? Okay, anybody using Learnist?
Sorry, I'm putting in there, but the threaded discussions, I think, are a big plus for Ning. And the fact that you can add categories and shuffle them around to make sure that people are seeing the best and the most current.
Good, yeah, I do like that. And those discussions surface when a new comment is made, right? A new comment leads to the what do we want to call it? The promotion of a topic.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's one of its strengths as well. You know, as I'm listening to myself talking, I'm realizing that I'm probably going to be a Ning follower for some long time because of the functionality.
You know, me too, but I'm trying to figure out why Google Plus Communities does something really important for me that I wasn't experiencing in the Nings. I'm not sure what that is, and if anybody has any ideas, I'm having richer conversations in the Google Plus communities, and maybe because it's so easy to get to them. I'm not logging in. I'm not having to go to a specific place. Maybe it's just that it's so quick to get there. Oh, Symbaloo. I'll add Symbaloo. And while I'm doing so, in fact, if you are putting, Rhonda and Jenny, if you wouldn't mind typing those on the screen there on the lower right, that would be great. Okay, anybody using Learnist who would want to call out benefits of Learnist? Things that we could learn from Learnist that are useful. And let's say Learnist, Mighty Bell, Pinterest. If you're using any of those programs, are there things that you really like about them? I'll shout out again, full disclosures, I'm doing consulting work for Mighty Bell and really like Gina Bianchini and the project. But part of what I like about Mighty Bell is a community conversation and then threaded conversation around objects. So I'll type that in. So if we're thinking about Google Plus communities, they don't have that threaded conversation around an object. Somebody posts to a Google Plus community, and then that conversation is non-threaded. Coach Carroll says, some members are not big on posting, so now using LinkedIn for more conversations with e-champions. Okay, Pinterest, Learnist, Mighty Bell. Again, I'm privy to things that others wouldn't know. Mighty Bell's about to announce categorization, and I think it's going to be brilliant for things like virtual book groups. We'll get to see that probably next week, but there is something about, I don't use Pinterest and Learnist, so I can't say. I'm going to, for Mighty Bell again, this isn't quite fair because I know more, but private groups. There are private groups in Mighty Bell. Now, Ning Plus communities can be private, but you can't switch from private to public, right? Oh, and I'm going to go back, just back here to Drawbacks. Once you reach a certain size on a Google Plus community, you can't rename it. And it says that you can rename it, but once I reached a certain number of members in my Google Plus community, it stopped allowing me to rename it. And I was actually going to change the name of Education Revolution to Learning Revolution. It started a discussion about whether or not to do that. Went to actually make the change and couldn't do it. Okay, so looking at this list as a whole, since we don't want to spend too much time on this, if there's another platform up here that you like where you feel like there's a feature that's valuable for educational communities that doesn't exist in the Google Plus communities, I don't know what the limit is, Liz. I just reached it and somehow passed by it. Maybe it's 1,000 users. I just have no idea, but I was no longer able to change it. So looking at this list, is there something in one of these other platforms where you feel like this is an important feature for educators? Like for Edmodo, I'm going to put here lower age groups, right? So obviously critical to Edmodo's success is the ability to have children under the age of 13 use it. Good, so these names that you're putting in here, Wigio, ePals, Everlater, some of these I don't even know, Stixy. Are there features of those that you feel like really are important to the building of conversation for a group of educators or students, or both? Yeah, Carol says, revisit the work of Nancy White on digital habitats for categorizing community management. You know, so that's an interesting topic in and of itself, Carol, which is, as a community manager, something can be appealing in a way that doesn't matter to the users, but is appealing as a manager, right? So my appreciation of the ownership of a Ning and the ability to email, that's something that I care about as a manager, but that a user wouldn't necessarily care about. That's a great distinction. And so either from the management side or from the user side, are there ways in which you're using any of these tools that you'd say, okay, this is really important to education? Twitter, again, maybe Twitter has one of the same benefits that Google Plus communities would have, which is visibility, right? So it gains traction, and people are aware of it. Now, Twitter may not be better than Plurk, but Twitter gained more visibility and traction, and so it becomes kind of the de facto place to find people. You have some site for virtual meetings and chat rooms if you like a place. I have some site for virtual meetings and chat rooms if you'd like me to place them on here. Sure, please do, Jenny. Right, so one of the things that Ning doesn't have that Google Plus Communities has is the Hangout feature. So Ning does not have any kind of synchronous live session, whereas Google Plus Communities has that. So I'm going to go back. Bear with me here for a second. I'm going to go back here. I think we put Hangouts. Oh yeah, we've already got it there. But that's a huge benefit to education. Illuminate, or now Blackboard Collaborate, this is a great tool, but it's not really a community building tool. It's comparable to the Hangout functionality of a Google Plus community. Flash meeting, yes. Now again, they aren't community building tools, but integrated into a community like Google Plus is doing makes so much sense. And I don't think anybody else has anything like that, right? And Google Plus communities are unique in their ability to create both the Hangout and what's the broadcast piece called when you do a Google Hangout and you can actually broadcast it? Oh yeah, Ning has chat rooms, the chat capability. Now I don't use that, but I know people like it. So I'm going to call that live chat, right? Because Aussies like the live chat. The problem for me with the live chat is it's not recorded, right? So I don't want to encourage participation in the chat because that doesn't get captured to be of benefit later. Yeah, and there's a question here about cost as well, isn't there? Right, so Google Plus having being free. Jenny, you're caught up with great references here. Okay, I'm gonna say going once, going twice on this page, which is these are features that are valuable to education that are used in these community building platforms that would help inform sort of our larger discussion of what's valuable and why. And going once, going twice. Okay. So I'm going to move on to a new page here. And let's use this page for questions. Right? So some of you probably came not knowing anything about Google Plus or some of these other platforms. And we may not be able to answer every question that we have tonight, but I would like us to have an opportunity to ask questions that you would have about either the platforms or about community building. And I'm a broken record here, but again, based on this belief that this is going to become a really significant part of education practice. So does anybody have any questions? Feel free to put it on the board or put it in the chat or just grab the microphone. To grab the microphone, you click on the talk button at the top left. Yeah, so today's meet is an interesting one, Jenny, because you probably have listed others that do the same thing. I just don't know them. But the idea of collaborative note-taking. And will Google ultimately integrate communities and Google Docs or Google Drive. Yeah, Twitter has this huge disadvantage now of having locked themselves down, making it hard to find earlier conversation and making it hard to use third-party products. Okay, so one note was here, I have a problem with the management of Google Plus app on an iPad. So I don't use an iPad, so I can't tell you, but if you want to describe that, please feel free to do so. I'm assuming that's a technical issue, not a user issue, but if it's something we can help with, I'm glad to open the floor here. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, that was my query. It's only occurred in the last few days as I've gone into the particular iPad app for Google Plus communities. And one of the conversations that's happening in there, I can't get rid of it. It won't let me go back to the whole set. I don't know how to get around it. So that's my question that I'll need to pose for those who are iPad users of Google Plus.
So you are able on the regular browser version of Google Plus to go back?
Yeah, I just tested it out this morning, and yep, it's working fine in the browser app, browser version, but not in the app itself. I'm stuck in there.
Interesting. So I'm not using the Google Plus on my tablet, which is also an Android tablet. I'm just using it on my phone. And I haven't gone back to look for conversations, which is a part of my difficulty with Google Plus communities as a whole. Is the immediate conversations are great, but I'm sure there are other conversations going on that I just don't see because they don't surface. I also want to know, do people have experience with combined teen-adult communities? You're interested in thoughts about adult roles to not overpower teens. I think that's a really, really good question. And that goes along with just sort of the questions about management. And the role of a community manager or facilitator. And I'm going to put teen, adult, and not taking over. I think that's really perceptive, Allison. And I think in many ways it's not just teens, but let's say that we're creating something for educators. And we often have an idea of how we want things to go, and so we try and manage in that direction. And people resist because they're there voluntarily, and increasingly the web makes our lives more voluntary. So the whole idea of kind of controlling or forcing that's a critical issue in community management, and it's a good one, I think, for the discussion we have with Richard Millington when we talk about management. So there are goals that all ages work on together. Yeah, I'm not the only person who has years of experience, and I'm certainly not the smartest, but I will say that we often don't recognize the important social component to the manager, creator of a network. In a lot of ways, it's like the person who's good at a party, involving people, understanding sensitivities, what Seth Godin calls emotional labor. I think these are really critical elements for managing a network. And we think, that just the content will drive them, but there's a lot of work involved on an emotional level. Linda, I wonder how you'd feel about this. I often talk about it being like the role of a cruise director. I'll put emotional labor. And I'll put in quotes, cruise director. Okay, so my family would probably love it if we didn't go the full 90 minutes, but I want to make sure we have time for anything else that people would want to bring up. So if something didn't come up, we haven't talked about it yet, please feel free to bring it up, and it looks like Anna's got a question here. And I'm also interested in anything else you would like to learn if we were to hold another session like this. Anna says, does anyone have experience with creating communities of educators and parents? I did a small experiment with 2 parents on Edmodo, but they found it confusing and asked if we could just use email. Great question. You know, because I think, so I'm going to go back on something I said and apologize. Right, so we talked about Blogspot. I think maybe it was even Jenny who put Blogspot up. We said it wasn't a community, but actually Blogspot is, in many cases, the school-to-home community platform, or blogging would be, right? So the school or the teacher posts, and then there's conversation back from those posts. And I was probably too quick to dismiss that. So, yeah, I wonder, Anna, if blogging is actually something to consider in that circumstance. Blog from Google+, auto blog to other platforms. Yeah, tell us what you mean by that, Liz. Blog from Google+, auto blog to other platforms. You know, I blog in Google and Blogspot, Blogger, and then I have a program that automatically posts it to Twitter, and that would be interesting. Now, when I blog in Blogspot, it asks me specifically, do I want to post to Google+? And I can post to Google+, my blog post, either to the regular stream, or I can post to the community, one of the communities that I'm in. So that's actually kind of a nice combination, sort of a 1-2 punch. Parents need some training on this for them to understand how it works. I certainly think that's true, and the tool probably does make a big difference for them. Google+, then the same to Facebook and then Twitter, that's all you know. What program is that that shares from Blogspot to Twitter? Email me, Jill, and I'll try and look it up. But it's something I signed up for at some point. It still keeps doing it, and I don't have to do anything. I'm wondering if we use these blogs for parent communication, does it then mean we must print out to save the conversations for records? So, Linda, you're asking a legal question there, right? Because certainly your blog would keep that information. You could have a parents meeting and then train them in the computer room. That's fun. Okay, so this is interesting. I did not even think about the parents as part of a community that you would build, but that is a really important point. And I don't think Google Plus would do it well. Ning probably could do it, but that's a lot of work to sign up for a Ning, probably more than you want. A blog seems like a really natural place for that, for the parent community. Unless you were to get somehow more specific, like a PTA or you know, a specific committee or something associated with parents. Yeah, I'm gonna go back here. So, looking at this list here, Facebook probably, depending on your district policies and the like, would be a place for parents. But most of these others, I think, would be a little too much work to figure out for the parents, and also, well, I think maybe it's just the work involved, right, for the benefit. Because on a blog, you can have commenting and discussion and feedback. Now, it would be interesting to think about linking up a blog to some specific topic communities, right? So if the parent community that was started with a blog got strong enough, seems like you likely could be able to create links to more specific conversations taking place. And if you're in a circumstance where you're legally required to keep track of that correspondence, you'd have to make sure that the tool for the more in-depth community was one where you were in compliance. You know, it would be interesting to look at Weebly and to look at their conversation piece, the element, the function, what's it called, the widget or whatever it is that lets you hold conversations. Because Weeblys do allow for blogging, and then if they had a conversation piece as well, they also do pretty well on cell phones. I'm going to put here with Weebly, blog plus conversation. Do well on cell phones. Yeah, I don't have an easy way of doing a poll with this many responses. You know that star icon to the left of the whiteboard, the second one down that we used for the map, if you click on that twice, why don't you click next to the tool that you use the most personally? That might just be a good way. I'm going to put mine next to Google Plus Communities because right now that's what I'm using the most. Look at that, LinkedIn with 3, Twitter with 1, Facebook with 2, PBWiki, WebPaint, WordPress. This is a good distribution, but LinkedIn is clearly the favorite here. What does LinkedIn do that these others don't do? You'll notice you can't put the star twice. Once you click it one place, if you click somewhere else, it moves it. So unfortunately, you just have to put your top pick here. Look at that response to LinkedIn. So if anybody would like to, would you tell us why LinkedIn is so valuable for you? Because I just don't use LinkedIn. Now, it does have conversation piece now, right? There you go, Carol.
Steve, LinkedIn for me has been part of my New Year's resolution. I'm looking for the most professional kinds of discussions that are happening around Australian educators, and they're happening in LinkedIn for me, in a couple of the groups that I belong to. There's too much white noise happening over in Facebook, and so I've crossed that off my list. Google Plus Communities is still up there, but I'd still place LinkedIn first and foremost. But had you asked the question about what some of our parents or students might be using most frequently, I think it would not be LinkedIn, interestingly.
So let's try that. Let's switch your votes now to where you think your parents and students are. So click on your star and then move it to where you think your parents and students are. Look how the migration to Facebook. Carol or Linda, what can you do in LinkedIn? Look at that, Facebook really took the day there, didn't it? Give me the core feature set in LinkedIn for communicating. Someone said private email. Are there threaded forum discussions, and are there groups on topics? Just take the mic.
Yeah, shall I jump in there, Steve? Sorry if I've jumped over someone else. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
What we're finding now is that recognised leaders in the field of e-learning in Australia have started groups, and you need to join them and be approved to join. And I think that makes a big difference. So over in LinkedIn, there's a number of them that we're using at the moment to discuss current projects on e-learning. And that, for me, is vital because it's part of my everyday core business. And I need to know what others are doing. The discussion threads are useful, and it also gives you along the side a kind of a leader board type of effect, like they did in Ning. So the most posts are being done by this person or in this group, and everything is notified to you via email. And you can turn that down or off if you want, At the moment, all of my LinkedIn conversations are probably 80% of my email messages.
Interesting. And in terms of your own contributing, and let's go even further, in terms of your own thinking, prompting you to think deeply and well, is LinkedIn that space for you now?
Absolutely. And I'm more likely to go back and tap into other conversations there because it kind of rubs up against each other and you make an assumption, okay, this is a good conversation here, there'll be other good ones in other places. So I find that for me, as a professional e-learning technologist, LinkedIn does that for me.
That is so valuable to know, right? Because ideally the technology becomes more transparent and the thinking becomes the predominant activity, the thinking and communicating, right? So if the tool becomes the means to thinking and communicating and you're not spending a lot of time working on the tool, then it's a good place to be. And this is a couple times, one of them accidentally added you to their group conversations. Oh, I'm guessing that's in Skype. That's funny, Anna. And then Linda says, you're right, this is a good link. When we are notified of activity, it makes us more likely to take part and keep working together. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Google Plus Communities and also put here, if you're a Gmail user, you can reply from within Gmail. It doesn't work perfectly, meaning sometimes it doesn't actually work, but most of the time I can actually just type my reply in Gmail without leaving Gmail. Liz wants to know about shopping information. Would you go to Pinterest? I don't use Pinterest, but I'd love to hear from somebody if they do. Okay, this has really been great. This has been fascinating and well worth the time for me. I really appreciate having this conversation. There's probably more that you're going to think about later, and if you do, please feel free to put a comment on my blog post that announced this session, and or on Future of Education. Go to futureofeducation.com and you can click through and you can see the blog post and add a comment there. The recording will be up later tonight or tomorrow morning. You can, if you would like, right now you can go to File, Save, and you can save the whiteboard or the chat or both. You can also do that in the recording once the recording is up. And this has been terrific. I don't imagine this is going to be the last time we'll talk about this. I think this is going to be something that we're going to really keep talking about. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, everybody. I think we'll wrap up now. I won't kick you out in case you want to download the whiteboard or the chat, but in about 10 minutes you'll notice if you're still in the room that I'll have to kick you out for the recording to process. Oh, Linda says you're throwing a shameless plug for a Hangout event. What can you do with Google Plus Hangouts? Oh, cool. That sounds really fun. Yeah, okay, there's a link there, so click on that link if you're interested. That's on the 13th, 11:30 Hawaii time, which is going to be, what, 2:30 Pacific? Okay, Australia E-Series, Google Community. Yeah, feel free to post also as well on that blog post. There aren't any responses now, but you could put a link to your community if you want people to know about it. Okay, thanks everybody. This has been great. Wherever you are, have a nice night or day. Take care and bye.